Hi guys, welcome back to the channel and thank you for joining me once again. In today's video we're going to be talking about a project that people are kind of calling an Ethereum killer. Well, let's be honest, every kind of smart contract platform that comes out is nowadays called an Ethereum killer and nobody has quite succeeded yet. So, what makes this one different and can it really be the Ethereum killer everybody makes it out to be? The project we are looking at is called Solana, and if you think that this one could be an Ethereum killer, well, I'll leave that up to you at the end of this video. Let me know in the comments down below. What I can tell you, though, is that there is actually still a lot of upside available for this coin, and there's something coming out on Solana, which is where you could really make your riches. So this is what I'm going to be talking about in today's video. I'm going to be letting you know everything you need to know about Solana and the projects being built on it right now. First up though, if you could do me a big massive favor, like this video, subscribe to the channel and share this with your friends. YouTube are actively suppressing crypto content and they don't want us to know about all these great projects, and they certainly don't want you sharing content about crypto. So if you could do that and also feed the algorithm by putting a comment in the comments down below, it'd be much appreciated. Also, a quick warning. This is not financial advice. You should definitely do your own research. This is my opinion. You can use the video as a starting point, but do look into these projects a bit more depth before you go putting your hard-earned money into them. With that said, let's get back to the video. Now, it really does seem like Solana is actually some sort of new coin. Everybody seems to be getting all hyped up about this one, even though it's actually not new at all. It was actually first developed in 2017 by a man named Anatoly Yakovenko. He is actually an ex-engineer for Qualcomm, and the actual team behind this project come from a lot of really high-profile projects and companies. Google, Qualcomm, of course, Apple, Dropbox, Intel, and more. Now, despite starting in 2017, they only actually launched the mainnet last year. It was actually launched as called the mainnet beta. It's still called that, although the actual features are out there now. And yes, it's called mainnet beta, but it is the mainnet still. Over the years, they've done a number of token sales, but actually a lot of their finance has been raised privately. And they're currently just finishing a funding round now, which has seen them actually raise a massive $314 million. So one thing you can say is that there is big money behind this project. They see the tech and they're excited about this project. So Solana is basically a fast, secure, smart contract network. And it looks like, thanks to some of the innovations they've made over the last few years, that they've actually managed to fulfill that promise. Solana's block times are super fast at 400 milliseconds, and currently there are 644 validated nodes on the network. It actually means that at max capacity, this network should be able to handle up to 65,000 transactions per second. Now, when I was looking at this, and you can check it on the Explorers yourself, at the time I was looking, it was handling around 1,200 transactions per second. That is still incredibly impressive. And of course, if there's not 50,000 transactions to go through there, then we get what we get. The fact is, it's capable. When you consider that Ethereum is still stuck at just 15 transactions per second, you can see how Solana is just blisteringly fast. Solana's fees are also literally non-existent. In fact, it costs well under 1 cent to actually make any transaction on the network. So how is it that Solana is able to actually do this? How do they manage such blisteringly fast speeds and such low fees? Well, it's down to a number of really big innovations that they've made, and a couple of those are in the way that consensus works on the network. So yes, Solana is a proof of stake network, but it uses a couple of other tools to help speed things up even further. The first of those is something called proof of history, and then that's combined with something called tower Byzantine fault tolerance. Now, proof of history isn't like proof of work or proof of stake in that it's not the consensus method itself, but it does actually make the whole system work. Effectively, all the nodes share a synchronized cryptographic clock, and they actually create digital cryptographic timestamps on each block as they're produced. This way, the various nodes are able to tell what sequence the blocks should be in without actually having to verify what's on each block. So every transaction or event, as they call them, is actually given a timestamp. And as long as all those timestamps line up and they all add up, then there isn't actually any fault found in the blocks, and the transactions go through. Now, along with that, the proof of history, there is the Tower Byzantine fault tolerance. And then there's actually 6 other big innovations that they made, which makes Solana a much more credible Ethereum killer, so to speak, than a lot of the other projects that have been touted as such. Now, I'm not saying that Solana is going to be an Ethereum killer, and I'll talk to you more about that towards the end of the video. But these are features that certainly make it a very compelling network to actually build upon. Now, I won't go into all of them in detail, but you have, of course, like I said, proof of history, Tower Byzantine fault tolerance. You then have Turbine, which is a scaling solution and is to do with block propagation. There's Gulfstream, which is mempool-less transaction forwarding. Basically, it's a way to put transactions through without having to leave them in the mempool. Then there's Sea Level. This is the actual part that deals with the smart contracts on the platform. And the thing that makes it different from Ethereum and other projects out there is that Sea Level allows for all of these smart contracts to run in parallel. You then have pipelining, Cloudbreak, and archivers. And if you guys want a more in-depth video about what all of those features are, let me know in the comments down below. Hit a like on this video, and I will make sure that I put out a video next week where I go into all 8 of them in more detail for you. Now, anybody can actually become a validator on the Solana network. It actually doesn't even require a minimum actual amount of Solana to be staked. But it does have a bit of a hefty hardware requirement. In fact, the actual hardware requirements for creating your own validator node could be quite expensive for a lot of general average people. Those that are quite enthusiastic about this project and have the technical know-how could definitely build one, but you're looking at needing to actually run a PC node which has actually got something like an AMD Threadripper with over 12 cores. Those come in at, I think about 400, 500 pounds, maybe even more than that actually for the newest versions. Then you'll need 128 gigabytes of RAM. And, when you think about how much RAM that is, that's a lot of slots, which means a big motherboard. It's going to be a big case. It's going to take, it's not an easy task to build a node for it, and not a cheap one to do. But if you have the actual inclination to actually build these things, then you can do it and not even need any Solana to be able to stake behind that. Now, the whole ecosystem is fueled by the Sol token. This token pays for the transactions, and it's also used for staking in the proof of stake model. Now, the tokenomics on this one are actually very interesting because the project is both inflationary and also has some deflationary forces that are exerted upon the tokenomics for this one. There are over 272 million Sol tokens that are in circulation at this precise moment. But what happens is that transaction fees are actually burned as they are used. This is interesting because there's also the inflationary side of this, which is where Sol is actually minted to reward validators at, I think, currently the rate around 7%. However, over 10 years, that rate will drop to 1.5% and then stay at that level per year as reward for validators. So imagining that within 10 years, if Sol is as widely used as we hope it will, the actual fees being burned with the 1.5% inflation rate should probably balance out to be probably 0% inflation. Now, why am I so bullish about Solana? Well, if it's not because of the scalability of this one, the 65,000 transactions per second that can be managed on it, or the very low fees, if that wasn't enough, it's because of what can be built on here and what is being built on Solana right now. Developers can actually build using Rust, C, or C++. And now, thanks to Wormhole, which is a bridge between Ethereum and Solana, if you're a Solidity developer, you can actually port your whole Ethereum project over to Solana without having to recode your project. We are seeing Solana being chosen for more and more DeFi projects, and if you remember quite rightly, Ethereum's price explosion this year was in part fueled, in fact mainly fueled, by the DeFi sector. The hype around DeFi and the actual promise that DeFi brings was enough to really get Ethereum moving again. And Solana, of course, is able to do this, but cheaper and faster. So DeFi will be a big part of why Solana continues to do so well. Right now on Solana, you've got Serum, which is a decentralized exchange. There's another one coming called Solidex. There's an NFT marketplace called MetaMarket. And one project, well, actually two projects that I think will really propel the actual platform, and also that will be ways for you to actually make quite great returns on Solana. And those are, first of all, Oxygen, which is about making DeFi easy for retail investors. That one should really shake things up. It's designed to make DeFi as easy as possible and leverages the fast speeds and low fees that Solana offers, something that can't be done over on Ethereum. Let's face it, if you want to do DeFi on Ethereum, you need a lot of experience. You need to learn a lot of stuff. There's a lot of things that you could do wrong that end up losing money with DeFi over on Ethereum. And the fact is now is that, you know, it used to be with Ethereum and DeFi, you could probably get on there with a couple of $1,000s, maybe even $10,000, and actually start making some money. But now, because of the fees, you're actually looking at needing huge amounts of capital to start really doing DeFi properly over on Ethereum. This Oxygen project over on Solana is designed and aimed at retail investors, which means it's going to be faster, easier, and cheaper for you to get in on. And I think that that is going to be a big deal. And the other project that is going to be the one where I think biggest returns can be made is going to be SolStarter. SolStarter is an official IDO, initial DEX offering platform being built on Solana. This will be your opportunity to get in on new projects for Solana at very low prices. Effectively ICOs on Solana, but with better liquidity and hopefully much better due diligence done on the projects themselves. You only have to look at the projects that were launched on Polkastarter. Yeah, a lot of them didn't do long term very well, but anybody who got in on those IDOs actually ended up making quite great returns if they were in early enough. As of course, there's the risk with any project. You get into a project early enough, you will make money. It's all about your entry. Well, SolStarter is actually only whitelisting now. So there is the opportunity for you guys to get into it, but obviously do more research on there, guys, about SolStarter and the projects, and don't just go on there and just buy any project that's being put on there. Do your research, but it's an opportunity because it's brand new and you might be able to get in there before everybody else. So with Sol itself, price-wise, what am I expecting? I actually think that Sol could go to $100. It would take quite a bit of a market cap increase for it to do that, but the whole market will probably be heading there anyway. So $100 to me is pretty damn realistic. That being said though, long term for Sol, if it really does take off, if the speed and the scalability that's available is enough to draw in more players to Solana, then I think that long term this project could definitely see prices above $500, but that is in the long term, guys. I'm not talking in the next couple of weeks, we're talking in the next few years. $100 this cycle I think is possible as long as everything else is moving up. I can't see why Solana couldn't go up, even with the actual market cap having to be so high just to get to that level. The real benefit, I think, for this platform is going to be getting into these earlier projects being built there, or utilizing things like Oxygen or the DeFi protocols on there. If you look at SolStarter itself, they're going to have their own token called SOS. Now, SOS itself is not out yet, but once that's out, you could find that that might be one where you gain really big returns. And obviously, if you have enough SOS to stake, you can actually then get in on those IDOs as well. Now, there are no guarantees that any of these projects are going to beat over Ethereum. But with the wormhole being available to take projects from Ethereum over to Solana, I don't think that Solana is actually going to try to be a Ethereum killer. Ethereum is definitely favored by the larger whale investors who are still more than happy to use Uniswap and pay those fees because they're working with such higher levels of capital. Solana, I think, will be much more appropriate for retail investors, and that's where the focus at the moment seems to be with some of those newer projects like Oxygen, for example. Now, if you disagree or you agree or you have a different opinion altogether, just let me know in the comments down below. I'd really love to hear it. I hope that you really enjoyed this video. If you did, do me one last big favor. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and of course, hit that notification bell. And I'll be getting a new video out to you later on this week. Please let me know what projects you'd like me to look at, and I will choose some out of the comments down below. All right, guys, take care, have a great time, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!